At a casual family brunch, my sister saw me walk in and rolled her eyes. "Oh, I didn't think you'd actually come," my mom added. "Just grab a corner seat. We're saving this row for the important people." I nodded, ordered pancakes, then got up and said to the manager, "Put it all on their tab." They insisted. 30 minutes later, my dad was red-faced and screaming at the waiter. $1,600 for what? I just walked out and said, I didn't even want to be there. The only reason I went to that brunch was because Mom texted 3 times and added a fake guilt trip about how hard it is to get everyone together. That alone should have tipped me off. The text right before I left my apartment said, "We're all so excited to see you. Don't be late, Mason." Like it was some sweet little family reunion, not just another Sunday morning with the usual circus. When I walked in, the first thing I saw was my sister Abby rolling her eyes. She didn't even wait until I sat down. "Oh, I didn't think you'd actually come." My chair was half tucked under the table, shoved in the corner like it had been an afterthought. The middle of the table had Mom, Dad, Abby, her boyfriend Kyle, and our cousin Emma. Apparently, they were the core. Mom didn't even look up, just waved vaguely toward the back. "Just grab a corner seat. We're saving this row for the important people." I stood there for a second. I wasn't even angry. It was almost funny how predictable they were. I sat down, ordered pancakes and black coffee, and didn't say a single word. Nobody asked how I was doing, what I'd been up to, how work was going, nothing. They just kept talking over each other about vacation homes and Emma's dog's new Instagram account. I tuned it all out. The pancakes arrived. I didn't touch them. Instead, I got up, walked straight to the front desk, found the manager, and said calmly, "Put everything for table 12 on their tab." They insisted. He hesitated, probably confused, but I handed him my ID and told him to confirm with the server if he had to. I made sure he had the right table, thanked him, and left. I walked home. Didn't check my phone. Didn't think about it. 30 minutes later, my phone exploded. First it was Sam, then a cousin from Mom's side. Then even Kyle, who never texts me, just sent me, "Dude." No context. That's how I knew it was good. Apparently, once the check came, my dad hit the roof. Someone had ordered a Wagyu steak. 2 pitchers of bottomless mimosas turned out not to be so bottomless once the limit was reached. The server had even added a mandatory gratuity for the size of the party. The whole thing came out to $1,642.12. I saw the receipt because Emma posted a photo of it on her private story with a caption that said, "This brunch is turning into Judge Judy." I found out Dad screamed at the poor waiter and demanded to see the manager. Mom started arguing with the server about how it was impossible they'd ordered that much. Abby just sat there, apparently stunned silent for once in her life. I guess they expected me to foot the bill out of sheer obligation. No one expected me to walk out. By that night, the group chat had gone dead. Nobody said anything, not even the passive-aggressive "Thanks for coming today" texts. Nothing. I assumed they'd all just stew and eventually get over it. I was wrong. The next morning, I opened my door to find my parents standing on my porch. No warning. No knock. Just standing there, arms crossed, like they had come to deliver a summons. That's when it became obvious. I hadn't ended anything. I'd started a war. I opened the door, half awake, still holding my coffee, and there they were, my mom and dad, standing stiff like they were delivering bad news from a courthouse. No greeting. No questions. Just silence and judgment. My mom walked in without asking. My dad followed like he was walking into his office, not my apartment. I didn't move. I just watched it all play out like I was the guest in my own home. They sat down on my couch like they practiced this. Mom opened it up with something rehearsed about how I'd humiliated the family at brunch. She said the whole thing had been meant to show unity to extended relatives and that my little stunt had ruined everything. I asked what part of unity included sticking your son in the corner and calling him unimportant. She ignored that. Then Dad took out a folded receipt and set it on the table like it was evidence in a courtroom. I knew what it was before he even spoke. "That's the bill," he said. "You owe us $1,600. I raised an eyebrow, thought for a second he was joking. But he wasn't smiling. He was dead serious. He called it financial manipulation, and accused me of coercing the restaurant into placing the check on their tab. As if I had hypnotized the manager or pulled off some Ocean's 11 scam. I asked him point blank if he really expected me to pay for a meal I didn't eat and a champagne bottle I didn't touch. He said yes. Because, according to him, it was about principle. Then my mom jumped in. Said I'd been pulling away from the family for years. That I act like I'm better than them just because I don't show up to every Sunday dinner or give Abby gas money whenever she asks. She said I'd been ungrateful for everything they'd done for me. I didn't respond for a while. But when my dad called me a leech, something broke. I told them exactly how I saw it, that I'd been putting up with their nonsense for too long. That I've cleaned up after them financially and emotionally more times than I can count. That I'm done being treated like the family punching bag just because I don't scream or gossip or act out. I told them they've taken advantage of my silence and patience for years, and that stops now. They didn't take it well. Mom stood up first. Dad followed. No more words, just a slammed door and footsteps down the hallway. I thought that was it. Some yelling, some guilt trips, and they'd disappear for a few weeks. But I underestimated just how far they'd go. That night, I found my car keyed. Deep cuts along both sides. At first I thought it was random, until I checked the building's security cameras the next morning. There he was. Kyle. Abby's boyfriend. Pacing like a nervous thief, then going straight for my car with what looked like a screwdriver. I didn't even call the cops. Just saved the footage, emailed it to Abby, and left it at that. No reply. Just read. The next hit came 2 days later. I walked into my apartment, and something felt off. The living room was too quiet, too spacious. I looked around. My TV was gone. Gone. It wasn't a break-in. I checked with the building manager. He said my mom came by earlier that day and said she was taking back her property. The TV had been a birthday gift 3 years ago, but apparently that didn't matter now. She brought a moving dolly and everything. Rolled it out like she was collecting unpaid rent. They keyed my car, robbed my apartment of a television, and blamed me for all of it. But I wasn't mad. Not really. Because what they didn't realize was that the only reason Abby was still in college, at her expensive private university, was because I'd been quietly covering half her tuition. And I just decided it was time to stop. I didn't call anyone. I didn't text. I just logged into the tuition portal, went to the payment section, and clicked cancel future contributions. That was it. No dramatic announcement. No warning. Just a few clicks. She wouldn't find out until the next payment deadline, which was only a few days away. And I knew exactly how it would go down. Abby would get a notice, panic, call mom, then the whole house would erupt like a fire alarm had gone off. I was counting on it. 3 days later, the storm hit. It started with a missed call from my mom, followed by a long text that made it sound like she was informing me someone had died. We need to talk. Immediately. This is serious. Then came Dad, texting all caps. Mason, what did you do? Abby finally called last, crying. She left a voicemail, begging me to fix whatever glitch had happened. She said she couldn't lose her classes, that the deadline was that day, and she couldn't get through to financial aid. I waited. 5 hours passed. I got a text from Kyle. He said, "This is low, man. Even for you." That one almost made me laugh. Later that night, the full family showed up at my place, again. Only this time, they didn't even ring the bell. They banged on the door like they had a warrant. I let them in. Not because I wanted to talk, but because I wanted to see how they tried to spin it. My mom went straight into pleading mode. Said Abby had nothing to do with our issues, that she was innocent, that it was cruel to punish her just because I was upset with the family. My dad, on the other hand, had gone full offense. He accused me of trying to sabotage Abby's future, said I was jealous of her, said I'd always resented that she was the favorite. I told them calmly that I wasn't punishing anyone. I just stopped paying for something I never agreed to fund in the first place. That Abby's college expenses had been dumped on me 2 years ago after Dad couldn't make the payments anymore. And I stepped in to help. No one thanked me. No one asked how I felt about it. They just expected it to keep happening. I reminded them that they keyed my car, took my TV, and then had the audacity to demand $1,600 for a meal I didn't eat. That shut everyone up. But only for a second. Then Abby said the one thing that sealed it. She looked right at me and said, "You just love being the victim." That was it. I told them to get out. All of them. I said they could figure it out on their own, sell something, take out a loan, ask Emma and her Instagram famous dog to sponsor Abby's tuition. I didn't care. I was done. They left. Not a word. Just the sound of the door closing. I figured that would be the end of it. But what I didn't see coming was how far my parents were willing to go to turn everyone else against me. Because within a week, I wasn't just the villain in their story. I was the villain in the whole family. It started in ways I didn't even notice at first. A cousin stopped liking my posts. Then another one left a family group chat without saying anything. I shrugged it off. But it wasn't random. The next sign came at a grocery store, of all places. I bumped into Aunt Trish, who usually hugs me before I can even get a word in. This time? She barely nodded, said a stiff, "Hello?" and turned away before I could respond. I stood there holding a frozen pizza, watching her walk off like I was a stranger. 2 hours later, I got a message from my cousin Jordan. He wanted to grab coffee. He sounded normal enough, so I said sure. We met the next afternoon. It was awkward the second I sat down. He didn't even wait 5 minutes before he dropped it. "You know, everyone's talking about what you did to Abby." I stared at him. "What exactly do they think I did?" He glanced away, played with the lid on his cup. "Just that, you abandoned her. Financially. That she's gonna have to drop out because you're mad at your parents. That it's like revenge or whatever." I asked where he heard that. He said, "Your mom mentioned it at Sunday dinner. I think your dad added a few things. And Abby's been kind of spiraling." I asked if he knew I'd been paying half her tuition for 2 years without ever being asked. He didn't. Of course he didn't. No one did. I left early. Said I had work to do, which wasn't even a lie. But as I drove home, I realized something else. They weren't just turning on me, they were rewriting me. The family historian pen was in my parents' hands, and they were scribbling out every part of me that didn't fit their narrative. The next hit came faster than I expected. Melissa from work pulled me aside. Said my dad had called the office. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. He'd asked to speak with someone in HR but ended up with the receptionist. Told her he was deeply concerned about me. Said I might be dealing with a mental health episode. He hinted I might be unstable. I don't remember much of what I said to her after that. Just that I walked straight into HR and laid everything out. I wasn't going to let them destroy my job on top of everything else. That night, I came home to a cardboard box sitting in front of my door. No shipping label. No return address. I opened it, thinking it was a package I forgot I ordered. It wasn't. Inside were old printed family photos. Dozens. Christmas mornings, birthdays, family trips, school plays. Every single one of them had one thing in common. My face was either cut out or scribbled over in black marker. Carefully. Deliberately. No note. Just a sick message disguised as nostalgia. I stood there staring at the pile like it was a joke. Like maybe this was performance art. I didn't cry. I didn't even get angry. I just put the box in the closet and didn't look at it again. They were unraveling. The next morning, I started applying to jobs out of state. I'd been thinking about leaving for months, maybe years, but now it was a necessity. I couldn't stay here and watch myself become a character in their fantasy where I was the selfish one who destroyed the family. 3 days later, the phone rang. Abby. She was crying. Like genuinely crying, not her usual guilt trip routine. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. She said she'd been placed on academic probation. That her boyfriend Kyle had been selling his login to other students, selling access to university databases and library credentials. And when IT flagged the activity, they traced it back to her. She said she hadn't told our parents yet. That she might get suspended. That she didn't know what to do. Then she said it. "I need your help, Mason. Please." There it was. Not from them, her. For the first time, a crack in the mask. And still, I couldn't do it. I told her she should talk to Mom and Dad. I said it quietly, and she went silent on the line. Then hung up. It wasn't easy. But it was necessary. Because when someone drags your name through the dirt and expects you to say them anyway, that's not family. That's manipulation wrapped in nostalgia. I knew they'd retaliate. But I had no idea what would happen next. Because someone, probably Kyle, maybe Abby, was about to take things one step too far. It happened on a Wednesday, middle of the workday. I was on a Zoom call when my phone started vibrating nonstop. First from my downstairs neighbor, then from my building's front desk, then from an unknown number. I muted the meeting and answered the front desk call. "Hey, Mason. You should probably come downstairs." I asked what was going on, and he just said, "Someone's here about your car." My stomach dropped. When I got outside, there were 2 police cruisers, a tow truck, and 3 officers standing next to my car, which was half up on the lift. I walked over and asked what the hell was going on. One of the officers asked if I was Mason Carter. I said yes. Then he told me someone had reported my car as abandoned. Claimed it had been sitting there without plates for weeks. I laughed. Told him to check the registration. It was up to date. I opened the glove box, pulled it out, showed them. The officer read it over and started frowning. "Yeah," he said. "This doesn't make sense. But we have to log everything." The tow truck guy started lowering the car back down. Then the officer asked something else. "Do you know a Kyle Jensen?" I said yes. He nodded slowly. "He made the report. Claimed you moved out." I stared at him for a second. Then just said, "You're kidding." He wasn't. Kyle had filed a false report to have my car towed, thinking, maybe, that I'd be fined or inconvenienced, or maybe just to scare me. He even claimed I'd moved to Texas and left the vehicle to rot. It was so stupid, it almost worked. They filed an incident report, said I could press charges if I wanted. I said I'd think about it. But I knew I wasn't going to waste time in court over a failed prank. It wasn't worth it. But it was a line. A clear one. They'd gone from pettiness to legal interference. Tampering with my life. My property. My job. My reputation. And now, trying to weaponize law enforcement. That wasn't just desperate, it was dangerous. I didn't tell anyone in the family about it. I didn't send screenshots. I didn't post any videos online. I just waited. 3 days later, I called the university. I asked to speak with financial services. I told them to remove me completely from Abby's records, any notes, any old agreements, anything that even hinted I had been helping. The lady on the line said she could do that. Then she said, "Just so you know, her parents already called and asked to update the payment method." I paused. She added, "They sounded surprised." I bet they did. That weekend I packed a bag. Just a weekender. Booked an Airbnb 3 cities over and left my apartment without saying a word. I needed space, and I needed to move in silence. That Saturday night, I turned my phone off for the first time in months. Slept without thinking about texts, calls, retaliation. But when I got home the next evening, I found my door unlocked. Not wide open, just slightly ajar. Nothing was stolen. Nothing broken. But something had changed. On my kitchen counter there was a note. One line. No signature. "Run all you want." That was the moment it all stopped feeling like a family fight. And started feeling like something else entirely. I didn't touch the note. I just stared at it, barely breathing, trying to decide if this was some twisted scare tactic, or if someone had really been in my apartment. It wasn't dramatic, no smashed windows, no stolen electronics. Just the door cracked open and a piece of printer paper sitting where my cereal bowls should have been. "Run all you want." That was it. No signature, no threats, nothing direct. But it was worse that way. Like someone had been inside my world and left behind proof, not that they wanted to hurt me, but that they could. I didn't call the cops. I knew how that would go. I'd file a report, they'd nod sympathetically, and then ask if I had any proof someone had been there. I didn't. No cameras inside, and whoever it was hadn't broken in. They probably had a key. Which, now that I thought about it, was possible. My parents had a copy from way back when I moved in. I'd just never gotten around to changing the locks. That night, I packed 2 duffel bags. Clothes, documents, laptop, a couple of personal things. I booked another Airbnb, longer this time, and I started applying for apartments in another state. I didn't even tell my friends. I didn't trust anyone close to them. I didn't know how far this mess had spread, who believed what, or who might try to talk me out of leaving. I didn't need another intervention. I needed distance. The only text I sent was to my landlord, saying I'd be breaking the lease early and I'd pay the fee up front. No explanations. Just logistics. By the time I drove into my new city, 5 hours away, clean air, no family within 200 miles, I felt like I could finally exhale. But it didn't stop there. 3 days into settling in, I got a message from an unknown number. Just one sentence. "Everyone knows what you did." I blocked it. Then came a DM on Instagram, from a second cousin I hadn't talked to since I was 15. "Hope you're proud. You ruined Abby's future over your ego." I blocked that too. Over the next week, 5 more messages rolled in, from people I barely remembered. All saying some version of the same thing. I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself. They'd already made up their minds. My parents had taken the story and passed it around like church gossip, and everyone was eating it up. I got a call from my childhood friend Matt. He said my mom had posted some long Facebook message about a son who turned his back on his blood, and how sometimes the ones you raise can become strangers. The comments were full of sympathy. I didn't read it. I just told Matt I was good, and that I probably wouldn't be around for a while. Now I live in a 1-bedroom place just outside the city. New job, new neighbors, no one asking me to fund anyone's life or attend fake brunches with people who don't want me there. Some nights, I still check the locks 3 times. Just in case. Not out of fear, more like habit. Like muscle memory from a life I don't live anymore. Sometimes I wonder if Abby's still in school. If Kyle's still hanging around. If Mom ever regrets how far she took it. But I don't reach out. I don't ask. That chapter is closed. They wanted me gone. Now they have it. But if they ever try to come here? This time, I won't just walk away. I'll make sure the door never opens again. 3 months passed without a single call, knock, or weird message. I started to believe maybe it was over. I got into a rhythm, commuting to work, meeting new people, even dating someone quietly. I didn't tell her the full story. Not yet. Just that my family and I didn't talk anymore. She didn't push. Then came the package. It arrived on a random Thursday, no return address again. But this time, it didn't come to my apartment. It was sent to my office. The receptionist handed it to me casually, said, "It's marked personal." I took it to my desk, opened it carefully. Inside was a plain USB stick. Nothing else. No note, no explanation. I sat there for 5 minutes just holding it. I didn't plug it into my work laptop. I took it home, borrowed an old spare laptop I kept around for junk files, and finally opened it. There were 3 files. One was a video, shaky, low quality, clearly recorded secretly. The second was a PDF labeled Statement. The third was just a folder titled Insurance. I opened the video first. It was footage of me. At my last job. From almost a year ago. I was standing by the elevator, talking to a woman I worked with. We weren't doing anything strange, just laughing about something, leaning against the wall, waiting for the elevator to arrive. But it was edited. Zoomed in. Slowed down at certain points. Like someone was trying to turn it into something more. I recognized the angle. It was taken from a stairwell window. I skipped to the PDF. It was a typed-out confession that someone had written as if it were from me. A fake letter. It claimed I had been having inappropriate relationships at work. That I was manipulative, unstable, and had a pattern of misconduct. It read like something a bad HR department would leak during a scandal. I opened the third folder. It was filled with screenshots, some real, some clearly doctored. Emails I never wrote. Messages with my name on them, but fake timestamps. One even had a supposed resignation letter. I sat back and tried to breathe. It hit me, someone had been building this. Quietly. While I was still back home. Long before the brunch. Long before I walked out. It wasn't just revenge. It was insurance. In case I ever spoke up. In case I ever made them look bad. This was meant to be a silent threat, don't test us. But here's the part they got wrong. I'm not scared of losing them anymore. I already lost them the day they stood in my living room demanding I pay for their champagne brunch and called me a leech. The day they keyed my car, took my TV, sent photos with my face scratched out. That was the death certificate. This was just a souvenir. So I copied the entire USB. Every file. Made backups. Sent one to a lawyer I trust. Sent another to a friend out of state. Didn't say much, just in case. I haven't responded. I haven't told them I saw it. But I know they're watching. I know they're waiting for me to fold. What they don't know is that this isn't a Cold War anymore. It's a countdown.